Wind up doing was that my poetry started to expand, like it started to move off of the page and become more public facing. So a chapbook that I wrote that was published in 2011, which was called Postpartum, and it was based on a murder suicide. The poet Ritika Visrani particularly, she killed her 2-year-old son and then herself. And I actually met them 1 year at Cave Canem. So I was just like, oh my God, like they were there and now they're gone. And then my response to that was write poems. When I was writing those poems, I knew that the work wasn't sort of keening, like I needed it to be like more emotional and louder. And so I applied for a grant and I wind up adapting that chapbook into a libretto, into an opera. I worked with a composer. So these grants gave me these opportunities to collaborate and see what a poem can do and what a poem can be. And also I found ways to bring the poetry to people who wouldn't necessarily like pick up a book of poems, right? But they would pick up a book of poems if they went to this opera, you know? And so I did stuff like that, which then leads me to Who's Your Daddy? Because I applied to a grant from the Center for Cultural Innovation in Los Angeles. This was a big grant. It was $10,000. And with this grant, I proposed self-publishing a collection of epistolary poems that were addressed to my father, Gerald. And epistolary poems are essentially like poems written as letters. So when I turned 33, my Jesus year, my mom asked me if I wanted to write my father in Guyana. And I was like, I don't know. Like, who's this man? Like, what do I say to him? And so, you know, being the poet that I am, I just figured out my language and what I wanted to express by writing poems after poems after poems. And so when I proposed this project, I wanted to take those epistolary poems, make a chapbook of my own. I also wanted to host these community-based writing workshops for other people to write letters to their absent, estranged, distant, dead fathers, and even patriarchal figures. Trump was running for the first time. So we were, you know, we were in election season. So everyone was all like, we have to write letters to Trump, or we have to talk to the man. So it was just like these community workshops came at a right time. And so folks who participated in these community workshops, they could give me their letter in exchange for the chapbook that I created. And so I got about like 18 letters. Some letters came from participants in the workshop. Some letters came through a call for submissions. I actually got a few letters from inmates in San Quentin, and we wrote back a few times. I also got a letter, as you know, that came from the Philippines. So I was really excited by this kind of the international reach of the project. And the last component of the grant was to go to Guyana, meet my father, give him this like chapbook of poems that I created, and to just sort of meet him, visit the country, see where he grew up. And I did all of this in 2015. And I kept a journal during that time. I've been keeping journals since I was 12 years old. So I have like nearly over 100 journals, which I return to often when I'm writing essays, when I'm working on a memoir like this. The questions that I'm asking you may come off as odd, and that is the point. I want you to use the questions as a guide, as a way to get into your memories and the images that arise in your mind's eye and the sensations, right? I want you to use the questions to just agitate some things, to arrive at a moment that you may not have thought you remembered, or may not even thought you had the intention of going there. But pay attention to the images, pay attention to your sensations, and use that, right? Don't try to answer the question directly. I want you to answer the question more so creatively, like from your gut. Okay, so I will give you about, I'll give you 2 minutes to just sort of, I'll bring your attention to a part of your body, and then I'll give you like about 90 seconds to respond. So go with your first thoughts, your first images. So I want you to bring attention to your back. Wiggle your shoulders, maybe touch your lower back if it's feeling sore. Mine is. I spend too much time sitting. But just bring your attention to your spine. Maybe sit up straight. Feel the length of it. Breathe into it. But just bring your sense to like you're looking through your shoulder blades or something. So now that your attention is on your back, my question for you is this. Who do you transform into? And I want you to use the meanings of your names as inspiration for this response. Bringing attention to your back, who do you transform into? Begin. Go with those first sensations, the first whatever, and see where it takes you. Question number 2. I want you to bring attention to your left arm, to the left side of your body. Maybe give it a hello touch. Maybe wiggle it around. So your attention is on the left side of your body. And now I want you to consider this question. When did they learn freedom? When did they learn freedom? Begin. Question number 3. Bring your attention to your right arm, to the right side of your body. Maybe give it a wiggle, wiggle your leg. And I want you to consider the question, how did they feed you? How did they feed you? Begin. The 4th question. Bring attention to your feet. If you can put your feet on the ground, recollect all of the places your feet have gone, where they have traveled, where they have stood, how you have stood up on them. And I want you to consider the question, where are you rooted? Where are you rooted? Begin. And the last question, question number 5. Bring your attention to your heart, to your center. Feel that heart beating for you. Just take a moment just to listen to your own heartbeat. Feel your own heartbeat. And I want you to consider the question, what taste is their love? What taste is their love? Begin. So now you've generated material that you're now going to synthesize in the following prompts. I want you to take the colors and objects associated with the feeling of your absence, and I want you to use your responses to questions 4 or 5 to locate a memory, right? So you're going to use those colors, your responses, and then you're going to try to locate a memory that brings up that color, brings up whatever. And when you start writing about that memory, I want you to start by describing the colors that you see. I want you to give us the sort of who, what, where, and when of the memory. Try to get those details out and pay attention to the sound that this memory is recalling for you. So now you're going to work with a different memory. So you're going to use your responses from questions 2 or 4 and question 1. Use your responses to questions 2 or 4 to help you locate a memory. As you write about this memory, begin with touch, texture. In this memory, allow yourself to be transformed. So go back to your name, how you responded to question 1, because your transformation powers is rooted and embedded in the name that you were given.
But I just want to say, and the clap and woo! There's just so much shared. This is like such a generous offering from you, Arisa, and to see everyone's engaged faces and to see the writing in the chat is just really wonderful. So everyone who's here who doesn't already, follow Arisa on Instagram, on Twitter, and of course you can purchase Who's Your Daddy. I believe that link should be in the chat. There you go. Tatiana has dropped it for you in the chat. So please go and purchase. Those 3 readings that we heard today are just like already so exciting, and I know there's so much more to dive into in the book. So please go get a copy. Thank you, Arisa. Keep up with her work. We're just like so excited and honored to have learned from you today and to have gained so much from you tonight. And thank you all for being here and for sharing.